My phone says I'm recording at the coffee shop next door, which is not true, but I'm here and I'm talking. Hello. I decided to sit down and chat a little today with my little dog. This is her little toy. I've been having a little nostalgia moment, and I thought I would just sit and talk about it because I've been finding it positive for me. I don't like the word healing because I think generally I'm starting to get a little bit tired of mental health language that seems a lot more revelatory than it actually is. It doesn't heal me to listen to Fall Out Boy, but it does make me feel good. And I'm sort of coming to terms with some things, and that's a positive thing. So I just wanted to sit and I wanted to chat about it for a second. I decided to go back and check out some 2010s pop music because that's when I went to high school from 2012 to 2016. So that's what we're talking about here. And I feel like there's a very specific energy to the music that came out at that time. Like half of it, for instance, is Ariana Grande, Fifth Harmony, 1989, One Direction, that kind of very teen pop resurgence kind of thing, especially groups being really popular, which I was into that stuff kind of. It wasn't a favorite. I have a Tumblr blog that you can find from that period of time that that very much describes what I was into at that time, and it was not necessarily just that. I was more into the other side of what I would consider to be popular music at the time, which was I guess people call it now the Tumblr core, alternative rock. That's such a broad overused term, but the emo bands from the 2000s coming back with records, and this is why I'm wearing this shirt. Arctic Monkeys, the 1975, the black and white bands. That was kind of where I fell on the spectrum. My dog needs to get out of here. So I've been going back and kind of listening to a little bit of all of it. I was listening to even some hip hop from that era that I liked. The 2010s were a really good era for hip hop. Obviously you have Kendrick Lamar and you have Kanye before he. And then even slightly earlier than that, you have Nicki Minaj and Drake. Well, Drake still had a good record in 2016. I'm not gonna wave him off entirely. There's some good songs on that, the one where he's the baby. There were good moments in a lot of different genres in the 2010s, and I think people write it off a lot. I think because it's the decade we just came out of, a lot of people are quick to be wow, a lot of the hit music in the 2010s was so bad. It's yeah, okay, Thrift Shop sucked, we don't like Imagine Dragons, but there's so many other things that I'm going back and being oh my god, this was kind of a fun era of music. There's the indie sleaze resurgence right now as well. Everybody's talking about, oh, didn't we love the Strokes? Didn't we love MGMT? And it's yeah, we did. We always did, though. Whereas I don't think there's been a reappraisal yet of a lot of the music that came out, 10 years ago as being worthy of a place in the canon of good music. And I think you do see that with hip-hop. A lot of people have already started to turn the tide on Mac Miller after he passed away, and people now talk about The Weeknd as oh, that's a huge, moving forward in terms of R&B. People know that genre of music was good. R&B shifted with Frank Ocean. We understand this. But did pop music kind of undergo a moment? I don't know. You definitely hear oh, well, Lorde and Lana Del Rey changed pop music. And that's totally fair. Although I love them very much, but I don't really like the direction pop music has gone into. I don't really listen to popular music anymore. Don't find it interesting. Billie Eilish is a good example. I can appreciate that she's talented, but her music does nothing for me. It feels like Lorde. We're doing Lorde. Anyway, but the point of this video was that I'm going back and I'm appreciating a lot of those things a lot more, especially in the context of it being just before I became an adult and all of this shit started happening that everybody's fully aware of that I don't need to go into. I have adults in my life. I work at an adult job. I'm almost 25 years old. I work with adults that are significantly older than me. Significantly. I work with people in their 40s who do talk about that point of time, like 2016, 20 to 2020, like being sort of a shifting moment for things getting worse. I think that's been the case in America and elsewhere, like for a long time. Like in America, I think we were like pretty much fucked after 9/11. And then there's like the financial crisis, whatever. This video is getting a lot more broad than I was wanting it to be, but I'm just talking at this point. It was just nice living in a space where popular culture, right? Like streaming wasn't huge yet. We all still like, I think we're holding on to this like Obama era optimism where all of this stuff that was like fun and a little silly and like, yeah, you had your stuff like what I'm wearing here that was like more on the depressive end of things, I guess. But it never seemed like it was about the world ending, you know? It was just like, oh, this is what it's like to be in relationships and to grow up and to, you know, see your life change and look at your life, you know? And not like, oh, looking around me makes me feel like shit, right? Enjoying all of this stuff on one level is like, well, am I just avoiding what's happening around me, right? Like, if a lot of popular culture now is centered on like, what if this horrible thing happened that is similar to a thing that happened that was also horrible? Or like talking very frankly about like, well, this might be it. Like, if this is all that society has to offer us, like, where does that leave us? And as much as I value those things and like, you know, those are like wonderful contributions to like humanity, that's fine. It's nice to know that there was a time in my life and your life, I'm assuming, unless you're like, when was 2016? Unless you're under the age of 7, which I highly doubt you are, that this happened in your life. There was still a time when people listened to the radio and like knew all the same songs, and those songs were like fun and made you want to go to the club. And I think this is also why I enjoy like we have a club here in Portland called Holocene where like they have like themed DJ nights basically for like pop music of this era, or like they have one called Candy Pop that's like Britney and like Katy Perry, like big pop stars of like, you know, the 90s to the 2000s. Or they have one that's like an early 2010s. It's like, I think it's called Sorry for Party Rocking. Sorry for Party Rocking. But those eras are both so popular, and I think it's because like people are really nostalgic for this like, oh, I want to go out, I want to have fun, I want to like experience, you know, connecting with people outside of a screen, outside of like what we're forced to do now, basically, which is like, you know, keep up the capitalist system that currently exists and, you know, not go outside. And like those things are like fake. Anyway, I think people have that desire to like be around other people and connect with other people. And I guess that's just what all of this reminds me of. It reminds me of connecting with other people. You know, nostalgia for like high school and stuff too, where you're like seeing people every day that you like grew up with and care about. Like that's its own thing. But it feels a little bit broader than that. So maybe this video did have a point in getting a little bit global. I just feel like ever since, you know, the mid-2010s, everything has gotten more and more atomized. And like you're kind of stuck online a little bit. That's not what everybody wants to do. And I don't think it should be what you have to do, even though that's kind of, it seems like there's less and less options to go out and, you know, have that opportunity. And another thing I wanted to talk about, and this is just more personal, is that it's kind of nice going back and like accepting that music for what it was. I think people have gotten more like open to popular music in the past couple of years. Like Pitchfork will give like Carly Rae Jepsen like a 7 or an 8. And that's like not something that would have happened, you know, 15 years ago. It's nice in the age I am now that I can go back and say, oh, actually this is good. Just because I listened to it when I was a kid doesn't mean that it has any less value now than it did then. You know, stuff that I started to see is like kind of cringe, like the pop punk stuff, for instance. Yeah, a lot of the people that like it are a little cringe, and that's fine. I'm a little cringe. So who am I to judge? And especially sort of like squaring my love for that stuff, because I was so into it, like with, you know, everything that has happened in my life since then, and like reflecting as an adult on some of what that music is like laying down, like especially like I think the three best like Fall Out Boy records like are so much about like Pete Wentz being in his like mid to late 20s that it's like, yeah, now I'm just sitting here like my brain's broken because I can't even really convey, like, he kind of knew what he was doing. Obviously he knew what he was doing, but it's like so much what I have felt in the past couple of years that it's like, oh, like you never stop relating to things that have meant something to you at one point in time. If it connects with you, it connects with you, and like I think you'll always kind of find a way to like have it continue to connect with you, just in a different way. Like maybe when I was a teenager I just thought it like sounded cool, you know, and I liked the aesthetic of being sad, but now as an adult it's like, oh, I am a little bit disappointed about some things, and like, you know, I've lived through like all of these things that he's now talking about or was talking about in like 2007. Yeah, it's just crazy. I know that's sort of outside of the realm of the 2010s, but yeah, it's been hitting for me. So I kind of just want to appreciate that era of music. And I guess I'll just kind of like do the latter half of this video just like recommending some things that I think are like good from that era, both popular and not popular. Let's do a little Google. Yeah, even just like Googling 2010, it's like, oh, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy came out, Danger Days, Treats by Sleigh Bells, Contra, Vampire Weekend, even though Ezra has kind of done some weird shit, you should look that up. Yeah, This Is Happening, LCD Sound System. Like, there's some crazy stuff that came out, like, now 13 years ago that has really changed, like, music for the better and, like, shaped, like, my love of music, you know what I mean? Yeah, and even, like, a lot of the pop stuff that came out at that time, like, Katy Perry, Teenage Dream is, like, a great pop record. Like, I love that album. Yeah, like, Lady Gaga was big in the early 2010s. Like, Born This Way is a great album. Like, art pop is really underrated still. 2013, Googling that now just to, like, throw some stuff at you. I will say the popular music that year did suck. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and say that Thrift Shop is, like, a great song, or that, like, we should have all been listening to One Republic over, like, you know, anything else. Oh my god, yeah. So, like, MIA had a great album that year. A$AP Rocky had a great album that year. Sky Ferreira, Nighttime, My Time. Lorde, Pure Heroin, those are, like, iconic records. AM, obviously, the 1975 Days Are Gone, Time. Drake had the good album that I was talking about that year. Random Access Memories, Modern Vampires, Jesus. Beyonce, Self-Titled. Crazy music. True Romance, Charlie XCX. Great record. I really like that Foles record that came out that year too. It's so crazy that all of this came out at the same time. I don't know. None of this is to say that the music that's out now is not good, because a lot of it is very good and, like, it, you know, experimental in its own way. This is where my brain is at right now. A lot of people say 2016 was a great year for music. I agree. There's a good James Acaster podcast on that and book. A lot of amazing records that year. I got really into Chance the Rapper that year, and I know people like clown on that now, but it was really good at the time. I think Carly Rae, did Emotion come out that year? It might have been the year before that, but that also came out. I think, didn't Death Grips, the Money Store came out in like 2010, I think. So there's that also in 2010. I kind of covered that, but like, that's a great record. A lot of great Death Grips records throughout the 2010s also. Like, also the early 2010s had like that era that was like fun and group love and like all of that like indie stuff hitting the radio at once. Alt J and all of that. I feel like I can still appreciate. Passion Pit, you know, and that's sort of getting its flowers now with like all the indie sleaze stuff, but shout out, it's good. It played a huge part definitely in like my like growing up, especially among like my friends and I do feel like I sort of fell out of keeping up with what other people liked around 2017, and I think that's because that's around the time streaming started to take off so much that it was harder to just know what people were listening to. Like, you couldn't just be like, oh, that song that's on the radio, like, you've heard God Is a Woman, and people be like, yeah, but like, you couldn't guarantee that that was something that they really liked, in the same way that you could guarantee, like, well, I know they're listening to alt radio in 2012, so, like, I know that they're probably listening to, like, Vampire Weekend. That is not a thing after that point. But obviously I have favorite, like, I got really into, like, pre-hyperpop at that time, PC music, whatever. Like, Sophie was huge for me. Charlie I've been really into ever since then. Like, all of that came out toward the end there. Even the stuff that came out a little earlier than that, like A.G. Cook's stuff with, like, Hannah Diamond and Lip Gloss Twins, I think, is one of them. Anyway, yeah, that whole era of music is really fun, and I don't think will be fully appreciated for, like, another decade, but it's great. I guess I'll shout out Brockhampton. That was a fun 3-album run before I fell off of that. There's a lot of, like... Also, I was thinking the other day, this is going back to 2016, that Solange record that came out that year is amazing. Lemonade came out at the same time. Good record, obviously. There's so much good music in the world. Maybe that's the thesis of this video. It's nice to look back at the things that have made you appreciate something so much, and, like, you know, you kind of came into your own with it, and, like, it stayed with you, you know? Like, that's a very special thing. It's an important thing. So yeah, I just encourage you to, like, go back and, like, just check out, like, one album that really meant something to you 10 years ago. Like, in 2013, what were you listening to? Just go back and, like, just listen to it and see what it does for you, because it might genuinely surprise you. Like, in doing this kind of exercise with myself, it's like, oh my god, like, there's so many things I forgot about that, like, bring back really important memories that I had, like, shelved, and that, you know, kind of give me a different perspective even on, like, where I'm at now. And, like, back when I had more hope for the future, it's like, maybe I can, like, try to get some more of that back, try to use that energy in some sort of, like, positive way, like making a video, I guess. That's it. That's my little talk today. I hope you enjoy this sort of, like, almost, like, podcast-y vibe, but short form, obviously. I think I might do this more often. I was thinking about this for a couple days before I said anything in front of the camera, so, like, a little prepared, but it's also, like, free form, you know? And that's fun. It makes me feel more like I'm having a conversation with you, even if you never respond. Yeah, so that's all. If you think I should make more music related stuff, I'm kind of thinking about doing that. I'm not going to be woman needle drop, but you know, maybe just, like, having a couple videos here and there just talking about, like, stuff I'm into is a thing that I could see myself doing. So anyway, if you liked the video, thumbs it up. If you thought this was garbage, don't tell me, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.